The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're really thrilled to be here with you on this Monday morning and we've got a big show planned for you. I've got, normally on Monday we have Bonnie Yates with us and she does your legal rights. We've not had Bonnie for a couple of weeks because Bonnie she's a new grandma. And for those of you who know, like, I am not yet a grandma. Thank you. I have a son who is 16 years old. I do not want to be a grandma for at least another 4 or 5 years, right? But I'm already looking forward to it in my retirement. And I have many friends. Of course, I'm old enough to be a grandmother if I'd had my kids earlier. And my face hurts smiling because I see what it does to women. That I remember my mother when my sister had her oldest son, which was my mother's first grandchild, and oh my gosh, there is a Twitter-pated falling in love thing that happens, and we are so happy for Bonnie. But she has, of course, been spending time with her new grandchild. And we think that Bonnie is coming back to us next week, although I'm not 100% positive. But what I am going to announce today for the first time is that next week, a week from today, we are slated to have the fabulous Joe Mantegna on the show. Yes, from CSI, that Joe Mantegna. Now, Joe has been on the show a couple of times. We've done interviews with him at live events, but this will be the first time that we will be having Joe on the actual show. So, and he's going to be here promoting a show that he's very involved with that's called Self-Injurious Behavior. It is debuting here in Los Angeles, having had its premiere in New York. And so we're going to be talking with him, with the playwright, and the charity that is benefiting from these performances in Los Angeles. But Joe Mantegna, and he's pretty fabulous. I just got to say, I've spent a little bit of a soupçon of time with Joe Mantegna, and he's an amazing gentleman, and I do mean that in the traditional sense of the word gentleman, and a great dad. So we'll look forward to that next Monday. And we think maybe Bonnie Yates too. So you're getting the full package. But we'll see as things go. So, hey, we're going to be with you for the next hour here talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective, looking at serving all members of our larger autism community. By the way, that includes, of course, people who are on the autism spectrum. Of course, it includes the people who care about them, their loved ones, their parents, the people who are their teachers and their therapists and practitioners, helping them to get to the resources and the skills that they need and deserve, right? Now, if you have questions or comments or things that you want to write in, we love to have the show be interactive. Traven is showing you right now some of the ways to connect. While he does that, let me remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, you will see that there is a great deal of information, and we hope that you will pick and choose what and how works for you. We tried to make as many different pathways to things, so that if you're a visual person, that you could find things visual. If you're a text person, that you could find that, and that things are interactive and the buttons work. So if there is something about the website that's frustrating to you, will you please bring it to my attention? You can always write to me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. I love to get comments. We still are fine-tuning the website. And can I tell you, like, how frustrating? I'm big on customer service. I used to say that really, I honestly had started, was in the very beginning stages of starting a business about teaching customer service skills, because that was so much my passion, and my child was diagnosed with autism and it took me on a left-hand turn. But that's how passionate I was about customer service. It was like, I'm going to go and teach people the old-fashioned and new things about customer service. And I hate it when I'm on somebody's website and I'm trying to get information and I'm like, boy, they didn't consider that, I need to know this, this, and this. So please know that I gave up mind reading to be a mom of an individual on the autism spectrum. So don't expect me to read your mind, but write to me because I genuinely care. The other day I had a fit with somebody. I was like, do you understand when I call your phone tree and it says, you have to push this button to get to this number and I pushed like 12 times and then it said this number is no longer in service. Call this number instead. And then I had to start that whole process over again. Oh, they got an earful from me. So give me the earful. I want to know, like, if there's a way that you would like the website to work, tell me. I will be all over that. If there's a way I can do it, I will make it happen, right? I can't make miracles, but I can convey things to a web designer, right? Okay, we have got this great show for you, and we always have wonderful experts that are on the show. I like to remind you at the start of the show that I'm not one of them. I have a very informed opinion, having been in this community for like some crazy 14 years or something like that, and having been covering autism from a journalistic point of view for over 10 years. That's over a decade. I have an informed opinion, but not an expert in autism, not even an expert in my kid. But I care deeply about helping you to get to the resources, the information, and the inspiration that you need, understanding that it's not a one-size-fits-all. But you know what I say? We hold hands, we get through this together, right? Si se puede. All right, so we like to start Mondays with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what in the hey nani are the experts talking about, and why do I need to know this? Why are you hurting my head with this information? We give you first the actual definition. I then like to make as much fun of that as I can possibly muster, because it feels like that's all there is to do with that definition. And then we give you the working definition, which hopefully gives you a beginning understanding of what this is and why it might be valuable to you. If it doesn't the first time around, I want to encourage you to, we put these videos separately on a playlist so that you can go and you'll hear that term again and you're like, wait a second, what does that mean again? And you'll go in and listen to the video again and go, oh, okay, I sort of see that with what they were talking about. Watch it again and again. Some of these things, it's taken me years to be like, oh, now I get it, right? And that's okay. We're just working towards a direction. So I don't know that we've ever done this jargon term, and I love that more and more of you are writing in with requests for jargon. Please bring them. We want to build that playlist. So today's term is manned frame. Don't you just wonder what the heck that means? Doesn't it sound like something you'd stick under your bed, right? What has this got to do with autism? Well, you might have heard us do the definition of a manned before. So if you know that, you're like, I don't understand what a frame would be. So let's take a look at what our actual definition for a manned frame is. It is differing forms of request. For example, when teaching the child to request desired objects, items, different manned frames such as I want object, can I have object, give me object, can be taught. Well, okay. As definitions go, it's not the worst one, right? But if you don't know what a mand is, I remember me sitting there with the big book that they told me, this is the book that's going to help you, right? And I'd read something and I'd go, okay, I don't know what a mand frame is. So now I go back to the back of the book, mand frame. By the way, this came about after years of looking things up on Google and getting no closer to anywhere, but I got the big book, right? Mand frame. Okay, I don't remember what a mand is. Now I gotta, what's a mand, right? And then that had another word in that. Now I'm flipping the book. What's this? 5 definitions down the road and I'm lost, right? And I gotta go back to mand frame and try to piece the whole thing back together. Okay, let's start with mand. And I always say, think of the word command, right? So it's that last part of it, mand. And it's about commanding. Whenever somebody asks for something, it's a mand. So the child says to you, they're manding for something, they're just not manding efficiently. What is the child grunting? They're holding their hand out and they're grunting for something. What is it that they want? Oh, they want the cookie. So what we start to do is start to tighten up that mand so that when they request it, they get it, which means it's got to be more efficient, right? Mom knows means I want cookie, right? But then when they go to preschool and they go are they going to get the cookie? Maybe, but maybe not, right? We want to have it be very efficient, because when a mand gets you what you want, then you will mand and not throw things. Because if you go and you don't get the cookie, eventually a child will shove things out of the way or try to grab the cookie, or potentially even bite someone to get the cookie. I want my cookie, right? So we want to start to build a more efficient way of manding for it, requesting, commanding, right? I want the cookie. So we would start off by doing an approximation of the sound. So they want cookie, so we would start which is like, because I don't know whether you're asking for the cookie or the juice, right? But if you're going, I don't know. And it's going to be like a 50-50 shot of which one did you really get your needs met, right? Frustration is going to ensue. So we start to teach which helps me to know, oh, you want the cookie, right? And then the child begins, now we want to shape it up, and then cookie, right? So now the child is manding very specifically for the cookie, right? But what happens a lot with a lot of speech programs, and I've seen this, there are a lot of great SLPs out there, speech and language pathologists, but there are some working in schools who know how to get to a child to request something for a mand, and they know how to get a child to label something. So, they put the cup there and they say cup, and the child says cup. Great. Manding is when they would request the cup, right? But parents will write in all the time and say, how come we're not getting to sentences? How come we're not getting to conversation? And I'll tell you why, because they're not doing the mand frame. The mand frame is the next step. And there's all these steps that get you to conversation. So we teach them to mand. And why manding? Because it's rewarding to them. If I can go and I get my cookie, great. Right? I don't need to know anything else. But if sometimes I don't get the cookie, I'm now motivated to learn how to vocally say cookie if I have the facility to be able to do that. And some kids don't. We need to be mindful of that. But then we teach them how to picture exchange. That's still manding, because I'm requesting the cookie and we want it to work, right? Or we give them adaptive communication, so that they push the thing and it says cookie for them, right? That's manding too. Pointing is manding. But we want to get it as efficient as possible, right? Because we want to keep that frustration at bay. So eventually we get the child to say cookie, and then we want to teach them, whether it's on the iPad or whether it's with icons or with speech, we want them to say want cookie. Okay, want cookie. And then we say want cookie, please. And then we add I want cookie, please. And we're teaching it in lots of different ways so that it's not always the same. These are the manned frames. It's like building a car, right? The train. So, we've got the main thing, which was the request for the thing you want, but we have to start hitching other things, other cars to this train so that eventually the child says, I want a cookie, please. Can I have a cookie, please? Give me the car, right? We want to find as many different ways to do it as we possibly can. That's manned frames. And it's important that you do the manned frames because they will want the thing, right? Because if I want a cookie, I want a cookie. And if I can get the cookie by saying to you, cookie, I will. If I need to say want cookie, to get it, I'm willing to do that. It takes a second more. And I want a cookie, please, takes just one more second more. And if I know that every time I do that, I get it. And in the beginning, every time we give them what they want if they ask for it. That's a really important part of this, that they have to get that reinforcer. Later on, you're going to say, we're going to work on waiting. No, you can't have a cookie right now, but you can have one in 5 minutes, right? And then, no, we can't have a cookie until you eat your vegetables. We're going to put contingency on. No, you can't have a cookie at all, right? We'll work towards it. But in the beginning, you got to make it every time. Because it's hard to learn how to talk in the beginning, especially for our kids. So, but once you start getting man frames, full sentence, then you can start to work on other types of conversation that aren't quite as reinforcing. The reinforcement in the man frame is, I asked for it, I got it. Immediate, right? I want the ice cream, you give me the ice cream. Saying, when you say to your kid, how did it go at school today? There's nothing reinforcing there, right? But if we teach them that, this is how you do this, and then you respond, and then I'll leave you alone, right? It happens. Conversation happens, but it starts with manding and then man frame and then branching out from there. We can talk about those jargon terms later on, but man frame, it's an important part of this journey to conversation. Don't let anybody leave it out. Okay, moving on. We always have a question for you. And so you can answer this on Facebook if you would like. Our question today is, you have one wish. What would you wish for? One wish. And I got to say that a person on our staff said, I would wish for 1,000 wishes. And I was like, really? That would never occur to me. My brain doesn't work that way. And I'm going to say right now, the rules are you can't ask for that. But if you had one wish, one thing that you could wish for, what would it be? And it's just so hard, right? But if I had one wish, it would be for my son to be safe and healthy. I know that's two. But I would want for him to be safe and healthy. And it's important to say these things out loud from time to time because A, it uncovers what you're worried about. B, it helps you to go, well, are we working towards that? Is that, and you know what, the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, I want to be safe, healthy, and happy. Right? Because some of the times the things that I want him to do to keep him safe don't keep him happy. So I guess if I had one wish, I'd wish for my son to be happy. Oh, wow. Right? Ask yourself, what's your one wish? And see if, it's hard, but I feel better even right now for having defined that. I would choose for my son to be happy. Because there's people I know who are not healthy, and I think it's impossible to be happy when you're unsafe. So I think happy covers safe. So there we have it. I would like for my son to be happy. And I would choose that over my own happiness. Yes, I would. I think I can hear all of you nodding your heads, right? I mean, isn't that what we do as parents? And honestly, my son happy makes me happy. So there we go. Okay, but write us in and tell us what would your one wish be for. And believe me, there's a lot of other things I'd like to put in there, like world peace and world understanding and acceptance of people who are different than ourselves. Could we please have that? When I was in graduate school, there was one exercise, and I've done this with classes since this, but There was one exercise, and it's so funny. I had a very small class. There were 13 of us in my class at graduate school, very intensive, right? And we all remember this, like out of all the days, 3-year program, we remember this day. But the teacher gave us a list of things, and it was like everything that you could ever possibly want in life, and including things like, the perfect love, closeness to God, fame, fortune, financial security, healthy children. Like list upon list, brotherhood of man, world peace, things of this nature, right? And there was probably 40 things on the list, and then we were given 100 tokens, and we were told you can bid on these things, and if you are the winner, then you have to give that number of tokens, and you're bidding against your classmates. What do you want to win? And then we went around the room afterwards, and everybody got to say what they got. And it was fascinating. And the group of people that we were with, it's so funny because the things that people were bidding on and bidding high numbers on, because if you bid 100, if you were the first person to bid 100 and you had 100, then you absolutely got that, but then you couldn't have anything else. And so people were hoarding for things down lower on the list. And there was one guy in our class that at the end, he was like, man, I got a steal because I got things like fame and fortune for 5 points because everybody had other things that were more important to them. So he had this long, like he got beauty and fame and fortune. But it was funny because then we went around and everybody said what else they got. And it sort of kind of defined people. And I will tell you that I think about this often. What I ended up with, which are the things that I'm always looking for even now, is peace of mind, right? Because how fabulous is that? And the ideal setting, which I'm always struggling with being in the ideal setting, but peace of mind in the ideal setting. I think I'd be okay with that, but I didn't have a child then, All right, I digress. Okay, moving on. So we've got a great show. We didn't go over the topic of the day. And so look, it all ties together now. If you had one wish, what would you wish for? So our topic is, I know you're going to go, wait, Shannon, let's not talk about that, but manifestation. And what I'd like to talk about with manifestation is that what we think becomes what we say, becomes what we do. Think about that for just a second. And we talk a lot on this show about how our brain is a supercomputer, and if we ask it a positive assumptive question, it will give us a yes, right? So if we say, am I an idiot? Our brain goes, yes, and here's the evidence, right? It's like the little card pops up. Here are all the ways that you have been an idiot. Am I worthless? Ding, yes, and here are all the ways that you are worthless. But on the flip side, do I have value? Yes, and the card shows you all the way that you have value. What can we do for ourselves to improve that, and what can we do for our children? And it becomes a form of manifestation, so that if you leave the house today and you are mad at the world and you are really, really angry and frustrated with everyone, what happens? You attract that to you, and you will meet crabby people all day and you will find them to be miserable. If you, on the other hand, decide to be in a place of in that peace of mind, ideal setting place, right? Where you are happy and joyous, you will find that all of your interactions go easier, even with somebody who is not. I had an incident a week ago today where I was talking to somebody and I was not in a good space. I was having a little bit of my recurring heart issue, and I was in a hospital and having been taken there by ambulance. So not my favorite day, right? And the EMT was, he was getting ready to leave, and he said, ma'am, I don't know what it was he said. And I said, oh, thank you. And I said, have a good day to him. And because I was very grateful of the care that they had shown me and helping me. And he said, I'm just going to tell you something that somebody told me recently. And he said, they expressed to me, don't say have a good day, because then that relies on you finding that experience. He said, I'm learning to say, make it a great day. And he said, I know you're having a rough time right now, but let's make it a great day. And I gotta tell you, it was so what I needed to hear in that moment. So that young man went out into the world and said, I'm gonna make it a great day. And the truth of the fact is that that manifested for him, but that rolled over onto me. And the rest of my day went better from that moment forward. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that our brain is a supercomputer, and what we think becomes what we say, becomes what we do, and then that becomes our experience of how we experience the world. So if there's something that you want to manifest, if there is something in your life that you're like, oh, what I really wanted is this. Now, you can make it about the superficial things. You absolutely can. If you say, I want a red Ferrari, then I would tell you they've done research on this. Draw yourself a card with a red Ferrari on it and put it in 3 different places, one in your wallet, in your purse, on your desk, by your bedside table, wherever. And you will notice that you will then focus on that, and then you will, and it's not magic. Can I just tell you, there's nothing magic about this, but you will be reminded of it more often, and that you will find that the supercomputer of your brain will start to go, okay, how am I going to get that? And it will start to answer that question and set you on a path towards that. I think a lot of us find somewhere along the line that we go, I don't really think that's the thing I want to be setting my goals towards, the red Ferrari. Sometimes I want to feel like the red Ferrari, right? I want to feel like I could get a red Ferrari. For some people, though, there's nothing wrong with being attached to personal things. If that's truly what you want, go for the red Ferrari. But what do you want? What did you wish for, right? And then if you put that someplace visual for yourself, you will start to work on that. We did a little experiment in our last house where, I said that I wanted all of us to take a little bit more risks with things. And so we painted these 2 signs and we hung them up in the bathroom at the front of our house. And one of them said, dare to be, and the other one said, seize the day. And then we just sort of took note because it was just there. Everybody used, that was the only bathroom downstairs. Everybody used that bathroom. And it wasn't like we attended to it or anything. It was just there. But at the end of the year, we looked back and all of us pursued things that had been on our hearts, but were a little scary, that were a little bit hard, but we said, no, I'm going to do that. And I do think that having those messages to yourself helps you to manifest. Not a magic trick, but you know what they say about where you put attention, that's where you will see movement. So manifestation. That's my word for the week. Okay, we are going to take a break because coming up on the show, we have got Gayle Nobel. She is an author and a life coach. Boy, she probably can talk to us about manifestation. She's a transformative life coach, a parent mentor, a blogger, and an inspirational speaker. She has a lifelong connection to autism, and we're going to talk to her about how that is. She also has a BA in special education and elementary education. So she's written some books, and there is a new book that's called Space of Love, and we're going to talk to her about what that is and why you might want to get that book for yourself. All right, stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so excited. Joining us right now via Skype is Gayle Nobel. She is the mother of 3 adults. She's an author. She's a transformative life coach, parent mentor, blogger, and inspirational speaker. And I mentioned before that she has a lifelong connection to autism. We're going to talk to her about what that is. She has a BA in special education and elementary education, and she received life coach training through the International Coach Academy and Michael Neal's Super Coach Academy. And she's got several books out, but her newest book is titled Space of Love. And we're going to talk to her about that. Gayle, so welcome to the show, Gayle.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. So tell us, what is your connection to autism?
Well, my brother, who is just 16 months younger than I am, has severe autism. And he was born in 1960 when we were just barely out of and maybe still in the refrigerator mother theory of autism, which is amazing that that used to actually be a thing.
Yeah.
And he was put in an institution from the time he was about 5. So I didn't really grow up with him. I grew up more visiting him and not really understanding what was going on with him. And then I had my own first child with autism in 1983, my son, Kyle. And he and my brother are very, very similar. So I feel like I've been immersed in autism forever, even before I knew what it was.
What an interesting perspective and point of view you must have, because I have another friend who, she had a Down syndrome brother, and she didn't really understand her mother and her mother's relationship with her brother, and now she has a child with autism. And like I keep saying to her, you should write a book just about your relationship with your mother and how that changed based on you becoming a mother. And it was a different issue. But I'm sure for you, that's got to be a power-packed relationship with having looked at how your mother dealt with it at a different time in a different era, and then how you chose to deal with it. Do you ever write about that, Gayle?
I think I did touch upon it just a little bit in my very first book, which came out in 2006. It's all about attitude. I haven't actually written a whole lot about that, but that's an idea.
I'm planting that idea. So let's talk about your newest book, though, Space of Love. And you say this is you going deeper than ever before. What do you mean by that?
Well, I really share my experience with my son, as I did with my first 2 books. And in this book, however, I saw something very powerful in my coach training, and that has to do with the human experience. And it pretty much rocked my entire world and my understanding of the human experience, and my experience in particular. So I really wanted to share this with people. I really wanted to share with people the power of thought and the power of wisdom, hence the subtitle, because I feel like especially wisdom is sort of an unappreciated, lesser-known superpower that we have. And as parents of kiddos with autism, and I was just talking about this with a client yesterday, we are put in all kinds of situations at all times where we kind of need to figure out what to do. And a lot of times we don't know. And that causes a lot of internal struggle with us because we think we have to know, we think we have to fix. And one of the things I want to share with people is that we are connected to a power source, and it's called wisdom. And it's something from within, and it is also something outside of us in a way that is there for us in any situation. And we can always figure out what to do. We may wish we did it differently the next time, but it's always there for us.
Amazing.
And I wish I had known that in the beginning of my journey. So that's just one piece.
Okay, and so is that the main, if there were one message that you would like for readers to take to heart from reading Space of Love, would that be the message?
Yeah, yes and no. So yes, but also there's something else even deeper that I share with readers, and that is that we each are incredibly, incredibly resilient, and we kind of have what I like to refer to as a diamond or a gem inside that gets caked over and buried over with all of our busy-minded thinking and our upset and that kind of thing. And it goes into full force when we have a child with autism. But I want people to know that that diamond or that space of love is always there, and it's always available for people to settle back into, even in the most difficult times with their children.
And so you mentioned that this book there is a portion of it that's about your relationship with your son and that it talks about autism. But is this just a book about autism, or is this something bigger that might be helpful to people no matter if they have a child on the spectrum or not?
Absolutely. So it isn't just a book about autism. It's really a book about life as told through my stories of living with somebody with autism. And he happens to be my biggest challenge, but we each have something, or more than one something. So readers have told me that even though they just have no connection to autism, they were able to get a lot from reading it, just in understanding life and in understanding their own situations. So it goes well beyond autism.
Okay, so the book is Space of Love. The subtitle is Power of Thought and Wisdom in Living with Autism. Where can people get the book?
So the book is pretty much available everywhere. It's also available as an audiobook, and the narration is absolutely exquisite. It wasn't narrated by me, but it was narrated by another coach and mom of son on the spectrum. And the book can be purchased on Amazon. It's in ebook, print, and audio. It's on iBooks, really all the platforms. It can be purchased directly on my website. But it's very easy, no matter where you are in the world, to get a hold of it.
And we also mentioned that you are a life coach, and so if people, if people wanted to know more about connecting with you in terms of that, where should they go?
So that would be through my website, which is GayleNobel.com, GayleNobel.com, and they can connect with me there, send me a message, and we can go from there. I also have a lot of blog posts on there, several years worth. So people want to read more. Some people have finished Space of Love and say, I want more. So I send them over to blog.
I think that life coaching is one of the great misunderstood things in the world. So I'd love to give you just a minute or so here to talk with people about what kinds of things, and I would assume that you don't just work with parents that are on the autism spectrum, although I'm sure you're great with parents. But what kinds of things does your life coaching help to offer people to help propel their life in a better direction?
Well, you're exactly right. And I do love working with parents of children with autism, but I work with other people as well. And a lot of the people that find their way to me are often people that are feeling stuck or stressed, and they're wanting to move forward in some sort of way. Maybe they're changing jobs, or just wanting to find more peace, or just trying to figure something out. So those are a lot of times the people that end up finding me, or that I end up finding. And I share a lot of the things that I share in the book, only magnified and personalized, of course, to the person, but we do talk a lot about that wisdom piece, and I kind of guide them to really understanding their own wisdom and finding some of their answers. So as a coach, I don't tell people what to do, but I'm very much a facilitator of them seeing and figuring out what they might want to do, and it might be buried. So I ask a lot of questions. And one of the magic things about coaching is that the client or person, because I've been a client many times, gets to hear themselves speak out loud. And there's something about that, the way the brain processes hearing your thoughts spoken out loud rather than in here doing that churning thing, to where you hear new things and you discover beliefs that you didn't know that you had that maybe aren't really serving you. You just seem to have access to a lot more than you do when you're in your own head. If that makes sense.
It totally does. Later on, when you have an opportunity to watch the whole show back, you'll see that you and I have like a Vulcan mind meld today, because our topic for this week is manifestation. And our question of the day was, if you had one wish, what would it be? And we were talking about just exactly this thing. So it makes total sense to me, and I think it will resonate with a lot of our viewers, that I believe that as a parent of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at 2.5, that, there was this thing that happened to me that I felt like new mission, which was great for me, make no mistake about that, new mission, but I lost a piece of myself along the way, because I thought that if I only had my hopes for him, that I couldn't have hopes for myself anymore. And I think that happens to a lot of autism parents that are, in fact, I've been saying the last couple of weeks, I'm trying to not use the term that I'm an autism parent anymore, because it only defines me through my son, and I'm trying to get back to a place where I let him define himself and I define myself differently in this exploration of me coming back to being separate from my child, because it's very easy for us to get so entrenched in our child's experience that that's who we become. I think that a lot of people that have kiddos on the spectrum could use a life coach, right?
Well, yeah, I agree. And sometimes we are busy, putting our 100%, like you said, into our child, whether it be our energy or our emotional state or our finances, that we kind of come last. But what you said is really important. And one of the really important things is the fact that you notice that. So I work a lot with clients on just noticing. So rather than coming away from my sessions with kind of a lot of homework, often it's just notice, just pay attention, and you don't even have to fix it. But when you notice it and you shine the light on something, it automatically starts to evolve, because your wisdom kicks in and says, hey, I think I want to define myself and describe myself differently. And I notice that I describe myself this way. It almost can be effortless once you notice something. So I love what you said.
Well, I love everything that you're saying. And again, the latest book is Space of Love, and you can get that at most major sellers, but you can also get it on Gayle's website, which is Gayle Nobel. .com. There we have it. But you've written 2 other books. You've got the book It's All About Attitude, and then the second book, which is Breathe, which is, I'm laughing because we talk about that all the time, that sometimes the answer is just to breathe. And so how are these books different from each other?
The first book, It's All About Attitude, was written with my friend. So it has a co-author. So Kathy Almeida and I wrote this book. And it was an amazing journey that we had together. She has a son, same age as mine, with autism, lives on the other side of the country. And we wrote this book kind of long distance. And it took us a really long time because we were a lot of stop and start. But we wrote it together. And that one was really, again, it was short personal stories. And also the stories of our friendship were kind of woven throughout the book in short snippets. Because our connection, this was pre-internet, so I'm dating myself, right? Our connection of having phone calls every couple weeks was really important and powerful. So that was that book. And then after that book came out, people were kind of saying, well, I get that it's all about attitude, but what do I do? Kind of. And it forced me to look inside and say, well, what am I doing? What do I do? And breathing was one of them, and yoga. So I wrote another book, this one by myself, but with photographs in it that were taken by my daughter. And this one was kind of a toolbox. So there were short stories, and each one contained a tool, like something very simple that the reader could do. And that was the second book. And then I thought I was finished writing books. And this one bubbled up and said, you got to write me. So I did.
Well, and I got to say, I started this interview with, I think you have a unique perspective. I think book 4, I would love, I would be very interested in looking at what it's like to be a daughter of a mother who had a special needs child. Like, I think that's a very unique perspective. And there had to have been pluses and minuses to that. And that had to have in some way impacted how then you became a special needs mom. And I think that we're just going to see that there are more and more people who will describe themselves this way. Because all of our children are now going to go have children, and they, in any case, I've made my point, Gayle. I've assigned you a 4th book.
Yeah.
We'll look
I
forward
love
to
that topic, and I might just dabble in terms of a blog post or two
There you go.
with that. But there is a lot there. Yeah, there's probably a whole lot there. My parents aren't alive anymore, so I just have to go on, my past experience and conversations with them. And, it's tricky because they lived in such a different time and such a different generation of where you hid children with autism. You didn't see them, and they certainly didn't go to school. I mean, the public law came into effect in the 70s. So,
but even then, I'm wondering, so your brother was removed from the home and put in a placement at the age of 5. And when your son was diagnosed, because he's a little bit older, I know my son is 16, and on the day that my son was diagnosed, the developmental pediatrician, as I was having a moment, she said, oh, you're so lucky, because if this had been, however many years earlier, I would be telling you to just put this child in an institution and walk away. And I know in that moment, I was looking at my 2.5-year-old going, what? Like, I couldn't even imagine. When your son was diagnosed, did you have a little moment? Did they talk about, was the expectation that he was going to stay living with you? Or was there this, did your mother say, oh, well, you'll need to put him into an institution? Was there anything about that?
No, nobody said that.
I'm so glad.
My mother certainly didn't say it. And nobody said that, although I've heard people my son's 35, but I've heard people of children his age and maybe even younger hint that was told to them, but that was never told to me.
I'm so glad.
I was a very active parent, and I homeschooled him for a really long time. So not only did I keep him at home, but I actually created a whole team of people that came to work with him out of the house.
Wow. You made it happen.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think there's so much more there. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I think a blog or a book, I'll let you choose, Gayle. The universe is calling.
Well, I have what comes out,
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. We want to say again that your website is GayleNobel.com, but it's Gayle with a Y. Traven's got it on the screen for you there. And you can look and see more about what Gayle has written, and because she's very prolific, and definitely get her book Space of Love. And if you're interested in life coaching, then you can take a look at that on her website. Gayle, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're going to take a break, and are we taking a break, Traven? We're taking a break, and then we're going to come back to close out the show. Stick with us.
Welcome to Smarty. This month, we're going to be making our own chore spin wheel. You'll notice while we make this fun activity, these icons are going to be popping up onto the screen. These correlate to specific skill sets that are in the Skills program. Skills is the ABA-based online tool that helps parents build their own teaching plan for children on the autism spectrum. If you are a Skills user, this will help you get the most out of this educational opportunity. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are a large bowl to trace, cardstock, scissors, a pencil, a ruler, a hole puncher, a metal brad, and any other arts and crafts materials you want to use to decorate your pinwheel with. So step 1, you're going to take your large bowl and place it on top of the cardstock and trace the circle. Step 2, you guessed it, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut along the line. Step 3, you're going to fold the circle into quarters. This is the best way to make sure all the triangles within it are symmetrical. Once you folded the paper, you're going to take your ruler and you're going to trace those lines so you can actually see them on the circle. Now here comes the fun part. Take your arts and crafts materials and you're going to decorate the chore spin wheel. I used some crayons to color in every other quadrant so you could see them pop and see the difference between the different chores. Place the different adaptive skills your child is working on in the different quadrants. Once you're done decorating the circle and labeling the different chores in each quadrant, then you're going to take your scrap paper that you had left over and you're going to cut an arrow out of it. Once the arrow has been cut, you're going to take your hole puncher and hole punch on the very edge of it. This will be your spinner. Then you're going to take your arrow and your circle and line them up and take your brad and place it through and secure it. And voila, you have your finished chore spin wheel. Well, I enjoyed making this activity with you and I hope to see you soon. Until next time, guys, craft on! To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parent icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Parent to parent, one of the most frightening things there is when your child wanders away or elopes. This is when they leave an area without permission. And we know science has shown that over 50% of children on the autism spectrum will engage in this kind of behavior. But we don't have to just accept it as fact. There are things that we can do to teach our children how to appropriately ask when they want to go someplace. But before we can teach, we have to know why they're doing it. Are they wandering away to go to something, or are they wandering away to escape something? Really important that we know that. And once we do know that, then we can put in place these really effective teaching strategies. I want to remind you, though, that if your child is engaging in this kind of behavior, it's really important to work with an expert. Get professional help. They'll be able to effectively figure out why your child is doing it and put an intervention in place that's effective. And when you stop and think about it, there's nothing more important than keeping our children safe. You might be asking yourself, a BIP, what on earth is that?
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. You know, our topic today is manifestation, and maybe on your wish list, it's that you want your child to have a really great year at school, because how our children feel about being at school ends up manifesting a lot of other things later on in life, right? But it also manifests good things in their lives right now. So a lot of you, some of you are already back at school, some of you are starting back to school tomorrow, some of you, you've got a couple of weeks, right? But I want to give you sort of the toolbox, because I'm a former teacher, and the toolbox for making sure that we're setting our kids up for success as school starts. So the first thing for me that's the most important is that we make the experience of going to school special. And that we telegraph that in all the things that we do and all the things that we say. So, you know, my master's degree is in theater, and I always say, you know how we teach status? When somebody's watching a play, and we want to show status, we want to show this person is the king and these people are the serfs, right? And, you know, we can do this in lots of different ways, but the person who's playing the king, sure, they got to act a certain way, but it's really in the serfs. How the serfs behave and look up to the king is what makes us see, ooh, this is the person who has the highest status, right? And it works for all kinds of things. So for school, we telegraph that we think it's special. And you might be thinking that your kiddo is somebody who doesn't understand that, and I'm going to tell you they understand more than you think that they do. So they pick up on things, and maybe they don't know how to language them, and maybe they don't get the pattern until like the 8th time that you do it, but I'm telling you it adds up. So I drive my husband crazy with this, that when we go to school for a school function, my husband and I dress up. We don't wear the regular clothes, we dress up. My husband, you know, he works and he's in t-shirts and things like that, and he wears a shirt and a tie, and it makes him crazy. But it sends the signal to my son, school is special. We have to be respectful of this space and the things in it and the things that happen here. And we do that, even, you know, you're like, my kindergartner isn't going to know whether he has a new pair of shoes. I guarantee you he will notice, right? We want them to be comfortable. We don't want to put shoes on a child and say it's special, so now you need to be in pain. But you want to make it special. The clothes that they want, with the whatever the thing is on it, that's what they want, it's special. Or we're saving that to wear to school for the first day. And signaling in all the different ways, this is special, you are special when you are at school. You will see that translate into respect for school, respect for their teachers, respect for themselves. So let's make it special. Maybe it's the special pen, maybe it's the special jacket, maybe it's the special backpack, I don't know, but let's make it special and tell them it's special and they're special. That's my Autism in the Classroom, back to school, set us up for success. Make it special. Find the special notebook, whatever it is. Anyway, we're out of time. I got to give you a little bit of a rundown on what's on this week. So tomorrow, it's a best of. So the best of the best interviews that we've got. Then on Wednesday, Evelyn Kung is going to be joining us for Ask Evelyn Kung. On Thursday, we have autism expert Laura Smith. And on Friday, Kristen Roth from Autism Society of America is going to join us to talk about AutFest that's happening this year on September 15th. Happens to be my birthday. It's happening in Orange County, and the films this year are all about siblings. How amazing is that? And so she's going to give us some inside information about what's happening with that and what films will be available to be viewed, and this new format that they're going to. So all of that is coming up this week. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.